You were supposed to disappear quietly, he said. His voice was calm, deadly. He stood inches from me in his glass office, smiling like he hadn't tried to kill me. You forced my hand, Lucas, he continued. You found things you were never meant to see. But you tried to murder me, I whispered. He didn't deny it. Instead, he stepped closer and said the words that fractured something deep inside me. Every empire requires sacrifice. You were mine. Well, this is my story. Let me tell you how it started. I woke up choking on smoke and blood. I didn't know where I was. I didn't even know who I was. But I knew one thing for certain. Someone had tried to kill me. Just seconds before everything went black, I remembered a voice. Deep, calm, and frighteningly familiar. Saying the words that kept replaying in my skull like a broken siren. Make it look like an accident. He can't inherit anything. Then the shove. The scream. The car rolling off the cliff outside Aspen, Colorado, crashing through trees before plunging into nothingness. The next time my eyes opened, I wasn't surrounded by twisted metal. I was staring at a cracked wooden ceiling, hearing chickens clucking somewhere nearby, and smelling smoke from a wood-burning stove. My chest burned. My head throbbed. My memories were torn into pieces. A woman's soft gasp cut through the haze. "Oh Lord, he's awake," she whispered. I turned my head slowly. An elderly woman with silver hair and warm, tired eyes sat beside me, pressing a damp cloth to my forehead. She looked nothing like the people in the flashes of tuxedos and luxury cars flickering in my mind. "You're safe now, son," she murmured. "Whoever wanted you dead won't find you here." Dead. Someone wanted me dead. My heart exploded against my ribs as I struggled to sit up, but pain shot down my spine and forced me flat again. Where? My voice cracked. Even hearing myself felt strange, like it belonged to a stranger. The woman called out toward the doorway of the tiny cabin. "Mara, he's conscious." Footsteps rushed in. A young woman appeared. Dark hair pulled into a messy braid, cheeks flushed, eyes sharp and careful. She looked at me as if she were trying to decide whether I was a wounded man or a warning from the universe. "Grandma, he doesn't look like someone from around here," she said cautiously. "You sure it's safe to keep him?" "He was half dead by the river," the grandmother replied. "We don't turn our backs on people like the city does." City, river, accident, murder, none of it connected. My mind was a blank page with blood smeared across the corner. Mara took a slow step closer, studying me. "Do you know your name?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. And in that terrifying silence, I realized the truth. I didn't know who I was. But the people who tried to kill me did. For the first 2 days, I drifted in and out of consciousness like a man trapped underwater. Every time I opened my eyes, I saw the same tiny wooden room, the same fading quilt tucked around me, the same mud-stained boots by the doorway. Nothing about this place matched the fragments of memory clawing at the back of my mind. Glass towers, the hum of city traffic, polished shoes stepping across marble floors. The grandmother's name was Rosa, and her voice had a way of settling the panic in my chest. Every few hours she would come in to wipe my forehead, spoon warm broth into my mouth, or whisper a prayer under her breath. She smelled faintly of lavender and smoke. "This is San Aurelio," she told me on the 3rd morning. "A small village, 2 hours east of Santa Fe. You're safe here." Safe. The word felt foreign. Her granddaughter, Mara, didn't share the same gentle instinct. She hovered near the doorway with her arms crossed, studying me like a problem she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. She had sharp eyes, endlessly alert, as if she had learned long ago that life only spared you if you stayed ready. "He looks like trouble," she muttered when she thought I couldn't hear. "I look like someone who almost died," I rasped back. She blinked, surprised I was awake enough to reply. She didn't answer. She simply left the room. Over the next few days, Rosa filled in what little she knew. They'd found me lying face down near the riverbank, barely breathing, clothes torn, ribs bruised. No wallet, no phone, no ID, Nothing but the faint smell of gasoline and smoke clinging to my skin. My body healed faster than my memory. I could recall sensations. A hand gripping my shoulder too tightly, the leather of a luxury car seat beneath me, the cold weight of a wristwatch, but no full memories. No names. No story. Just flashes. One morning, Rosa brought me outside to sit on a bench near the chicken coop. The sun was warm, the air thin and dry, carrying the scent of desert grass. The village stretched out before me. Dusty paths, adobe walls, distant hills painted gold by sunlight. Children ran alongside stray dogs. Women laughed by the communal well. Everything looked humble, honest, worn by time but built with care. "This place is all we have," Rosa said softly. "Life isn't easy here, but it's ours. We work, we help each other, and we endure." I envied that. Even without memories, I could feel a heaviness in my bones. Like the life I came from had never known peace. Mara approached us with a bucket of feed. She didn't look at me, but I caught her glancing from the corner of her eye. "You can help," she said abruptly. "If you can stand without falling." It was the closest thing to an invitation she'd offered since I'd arrived. I pushed myself up slowly, pain stabbing through my ribs but not enough to stop me. She handed me a small bag to hold while she scattered feed across the dirt. "You don't seem like someone who's ever touched farm work," she said. For a moment, Mara's face softened as she watched him try. But when Lucas looked up, she quickly looked away. "I don't know what I've done," I admitted, "or who I was." Mara hesitated. "That's the scary part," she whispered. "A man with no past is either running from something or being hunted." Her words froze me. "If you're still here with me, tell me where you're listening from. I'd love to know how far this story has traveled." Now, back to the story. Later that afternoon, Rosa returned from town carrying a newspaper. She laid it on the table, hesitating before sliding it toward me. "You should see this," she said. On the front page was a headline in bold black letters. "Billionaire heir Lucas Hale missing in Colorado. Foul play suspected." Below it, a photo of a smiling man in a tailored suit. It was my face. Before I could speak, Rosa covered my hand with hers. "Whatever your past was," she said softly, "you have a home here, at least until you choose to face it." But Mara's voice cut through the quiet like a blade. "Someone tried to kill him once," she said. "They might try again." And somewhere down the dirt road, a set of unfamiliar tire tracks led toward the village. Someone else had arrived in San Aurelio. Someone who wasn't supposed to find me. For days, I stared at the newspaper, at my face, trying to convince myself it wasn't real. Lucas Hale, billionaire heir, missing, possibly dead. The world was looking for me, but no one in San Aurelio knew what to do with a man who didn't even know himself. What unsettled me most wasn't the money or the headlines. It was the sickening certainty that someone close to me, a voice I recognized, had wanted me gone. The flashbacks sharpened with each passing night. Not memories, not fully, but jagged fragments slicing through my sleep. A long glass table. Men in tailored suits watching me with cold eyes. Someone grabbing my arm hard enough to bruise. A whisper. "He knows too much." Every morning I woke drenched in sweat. Rosa tried to soothe me with warm tea and quiet prayers. But Mara watched me with a mix of worry and suspicion. She saw the shadows in my eyes before I did. One evening, as the sun burned gold across the hills, I sat on the porch staring at the dirt road. Mara came to stand beside me, crossing her arms. "You're remembering something," she said. "A little," I admitted. "Not enough to make sense of it." She studied my face. "Or maybe you don't want to remember." Before I could respond, Rosa called us inside. She had a letter in her hand. No envelope, just a folded piece of paper someone had slipped under the door. Mara read it first. Her eyes went wide. "What does it say?" I asked. She hesitated, but Rosa nodded toward me. "Let him read." Mara handed it over with shaking fingers. "We know he's alive. We're coming. Stay out of this. Last warning." There was no signature. No name. But as I read the note, a cold wave of recognition washed through me. The handwriting, the sharp, slanted strokes. I didn't know how or why, but I knew exactly who wrote it. My father, I whispered. The word felt wrong in my mouth. Heavy, poisonous. Rosa's expression tightened. Mara stepped back as if I'd turned into something dangerous. Your father wants you dead? She asked. I don't know, I said, but the lie tasted bitter. Someone close to him. Someone in my family. Lucas. Mara's voice was low. Your family has money, power. People like that don't write warnings, they send threats. I didn't answer. Couldn't. That night, unable to sleep, I walked outside to clear my head. The village was quiet, stars glittering over the open desert sky. I followed the dirt path past the well, past the goat pens, past the small chapel. Then I stopped. I heard voices. Rosa's voice, low, strained, coming from behind the tool shed. Another voice responded. A man's voice. I froze. Rosa never spoke to strangers at night. Not in secret. Not in whispers. I stepped closer silently, my heart pounding. I'm begging you, Rosa whispered, her voice trembling. Leave this boy alone. He did nothing. Don't drag my family into Hale business. Hale. My name. My bloodline. My curse. Rosa. The man's voice was cold. You already dragged yourself in the day you took him from the river. You should have let him die. My breath shattered. Rosa gasped. I couldn't. You saw what he survived. The man hissed. He wasn't supposed to. If you protect him, you'll join him in the grave. A footstep snapped beneath me. Both their heads turned. Rosa's eyes widened in horror. The man, broad-shouldered, wearing a jacket too clean for this village, reached under his coat. I ran. Rosa screamed, Lucas, go! I sprinted across the dirt road, lungs burning, vision blurring. Behind me, the man cursed, his footsteps pounding the ground. I turned a corner sharply and slipped into the shadows of an abandoned barn. My heart hammered so hard I thought he'd hear it. After a tense minute, his footsteps faded. The sound of a vehicle starting up echoed through the hills. Then silence. Rosa found me minutes later, breathless, tears streaking her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't want you to hear any of that. Who was he? I demanded. How do you know him? She wiped her cheek. Your father hired him years ago. Security. Enforcer. The kind of man who cleans up secrets. Secrets, I repeated weakly. Rosa's voice cracked. 28 years ago, I worked for your family. In your father's mansion in New York. The air left my lungs. I was a maid. I kept my head down. I never caused trouble. But one night, she swallowed hard. I saw something I shouldn't have. Something illegal. Something your father hid to build his empire. What was it? My voice shook. What did he do? He destroyed people, Lucas, she whispered. People poorer than us. People who trusted him. He built his fortune on their broken backs. The world tilted. I didn't want to believe your father could hurt you, Rosa continued. Lucas, she said softly, your father tried to kill you, and he's not finished. My knees buckled. Mara rushed toward us, grabbing my arm. Lucas, hey, look at me, she demanded. We're not letting anything happen to you, but you need to remember everything. Whoever tried to kill you, they're not done. They're coming. And in that moment, a memory hit me like a blade across the throat. My father grabbing my face, his voice low and deadly. If you expose what you found, I'll bury you myself. The betrayal was no longer a mystery. It was my bloodline, my legacy, my own father, the man who tried to kill me, my father, Victor Hale, the billionaire philanthropist the world worshipped. He wasn't just corrupt. He wasn't just ruthless. He had tried to kill me, his own son. I spent the night sitting on the edge of the small bed in Rosa's guest room, staring at my hands. Hands that had once worn expensive watches. Hands that had signed documents in boardrooms. Hands that had been raised in the back of a crashing car. My entire life, whatever it had been before the river, felt like it belonged to a stranger. Mara stood in the doorway long before sunrise. She didn't knock. She didn't ask permission. "You're not sleeping," she said quietly. "No," I replied. She walked in and sat across from me, resting her elbows on her knees. "You need to tell me everything you remember," she said. I didn't want to, not because I didn't trust her, but because every memory cut deeper than the last. Still, I forced myself to speak. "I remember a meeting," I whispered. "A big one. I found something, documents, maybe. Something illegal. Something that could ruin him. It wasn't just fraud, Mara. My father funneled money from relief funds meant for hurricane victims, and over 1,000 people died as a result of that. And when I confronted him, he said compassion was weakness." Mara nodded slowly. "And he found out." "Yes. And instead of fixing it, he tried to erase you." The words tasted like glass. Mara didn't flinch at the horror of it. She looked at me as if she had expected the world to be cruel. "Lucas, you can't stay here anymore," she said. "Not if men like that are coming." "I know," I admitted, "but I can't go back alone. I need proof, I need leverage, something to show the world who he really is." "Then we find it," she said simply. Her confidence startled me. If you love stories of betrayal, hidden truths, and justice that strikes when no one expects it, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. New stories drop every day, each one darker, sharper, and more unforgettable than the last. Now, back to the story. "You'd help me?" I asked. She looked away, her jaw tightening. "Rosa risked everything to save you. And you're—" She hesitated, then exhaled. "You're not the same man we thought you were. You're not entitled. You're not cruel. You're trying." The unspoken truth hovered between us. She cared, more than she wanted to admit, and I cared too. But before I could respond, a loud knock echoed through the house. 3 heavy hits, the kind that promised violence. Rosa froze. "It's him, the man from last night." My heart seized. Mara's eyes sharpened. "We need to move. Now." She grabbed my wrist and pulled me out the back door. Elise, her younger brother, was already waiting with a small backpack and a terrified expression. "He's asking for Grandma," he whispered. "We'll distract him. Stay hidden until we return," Mara ordered. "But—" "Do it, Elias." The boy ran to the storage shed. Mara dragged me behind the goat pen, pushing me toward the abandoned barn at the edge of the village. "Why are you helping me?" I asked, breathless. She didn't slow down. "Because I've seen what power does to men like your father. And because you're not him." Inside the barn, dust floated in the beams of early light. The air smelled of old hay and metal. Mara crouched beside a broken wagon wheel, motioning for me to stay down. I lowered myself beside her. My chest burned. "Lucas," she whispered, "you can't outrun this anymore. I don't know how to fight him." "Yes, you do," she insisted. "You just forgot." Her eyes locked onto mine. Steady, grounded, fearless. And something inside me shifted. A memory surfaced. Not a broken flash, but a full moment. I was standing in my father's office, refusing to sign a set of documents. He smiled at me, cold, calculating. "You always were too moral for this family," he said. "If you walk away, do it quietly. Don't make me clean up after you." Now I understood what clean up meant. Mara saw the change in my expression. "You remembered something." "Yes," I said, "and I'm done running." Before she could respond, a shadow moved across the barn wall. Heavy footsteps approached the door. "Lucas Hale," the man's voice thundered. "You have 3 seconds to come out." Mara's hand found mine. My heart stopped. Her grip trembled, but she didn't let go. 1. We exchanged a single look. A decision passed between us without words. 2. I stood. Mara grabbed my arm. "Lucas, I'm not letting him hurt Rosa. And I'm not letting him take you," she hissed. Before the man could reach 3, a distant voice, Rosa's voice, shouted from the village square. "Leave him alone." He's not here. The man's steps retreated, moving toward her. Mara exhaled shakily. She's buying us time. For what? I asked. For the only choice we have left. She stood, eyes fierce. We're going to New York. I blinked. New York. That's where the truth is. Your father. The evidence. Everything. She grabbed my shoulders. You confront him. You expose him. Or he destroys you. And anyone who protects you. I swallowed hard. There's no going back after that. She held my gaze. That's the point. And for the first time since waking by the river, I felt something new blooming beneath the fear. A direction. Purpose. A fight. Okay, I said. We go to New York. But as we slipped out the back of the barn toward the hills, heading toward a bus that would take us away from San Aurelio, I realized something deeper. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was war. New York didn't welcome me back. It swallowed me. The moment our bus rolled into Manhattan, skyscrapers towered over us like cold witnesses. Glass, steel, and shadows. All reminders of a life I once lived but could no longer recognize. Mara stayed close as we stepped into the crowds. She kept her hood up, her eyes scanning every street corner. She didn't trust this city, and honestly, neither did I. We need proof, she reminded me as we walked toward the Hale corporate tower. Hale International Headquarters, a 70-story glass monolith that gleamed like a polished weapon. Inside my chest, fear and fury knotted together. I grew up in a place like this, I thought. How did I ever feel safe here? The moment we entered the lobby, heads turned. Whispers rippled like static. That's him. The missing Hale heir. I thought he was dead. Security scanned us suspiciously, but the receptionist, after a frantic phone call, simply said, Mr. Hale is expecting you. Top floor. Expecting me. Of course he was. Mara's hand brushed mine. Not quite a touch, but close enough to anchor me. Stay alert, she whispered. I nodded, though my heart thundered loud enough to shake the elevator walls. As we ascended, flashes of memory stabbed through me. Long hallways, cold boardrooms, my father's empty praise, his colder silence. When the doors opened, the man himself stood waiting. Victor Hale, my father, tall, impeccably dressed, a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, a smile carved from marble. My son, he said softly, stepping forward as if the last month had simply been an inconvenience. You're alive. The warmth in his voice was a costume. I knew it now. I had heard the truth behind it. Mara stiffened beside me. Victor spread his arms. Let's talk privately. His executives, silent, stiff, watching, stepped aside as he led us into his massive corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a skyline worth billions, a desk big enough to bury secrets under. Victor closed the door. The smile dropped. You were supposed to disappear quietly, he said. My blood iced. Mara inhaled sharply. So you admit it. He didn't even look at her. His focus stayed on me, as if she were dust on his sleeve. You forced me, Lucas, Victor said, stepping closer. You found things you were never meant to see. You threatened the Hale legacy. You were supposed to inherit everything, Lucas. But you were too soft, too human. That's why I couldn't trust you. I threatened your crimes. I shot back. His eyes flashed. Every empire is built on decisions the public doesn't understand. You found documents that would destroy everything I've created. For you, for this family. For me, I laughed bitterly. You tried to murder me. He exhaled slowly, as if I were being dramatic. You made it necessary. My jaw clenched. You ordered the crash. You hired the man who found me in the village. Victor flicked his fingers dismissively. A loose end. I assumed Rosa had died long ago. That woman has been a nuisance since the day she saw something she shouldn't have. My stomach twisted. You ruined her life, I said. And you tried to do the same to mine. Victor stepped closer, lowering his voice. Walk away, Lucas. I will give you everything. Money, power, freedom. Just walk away quietly and leave the past buried. Mara's eyes narrowed. He's done burying things. Victor finally turned to her, as if acknowledging her existence for the first time. And you, he said coolly, are a complication. He reached into his jacket. Mara grabbed my arm, pulling me back. A gun? A phone? Panic button? I never found out, because suddenly the door burst open. Security stormed in, but not for us. Behind them, agents with badges from the SEC and FBI spilled into the office. Victor Hale, one agent announced loudly. You are under arrest for financial fraud, embezzlement, racketeering, and attempted murder. Victor's face drained of color. What nonsense is this? Evidence was submitted to our office this morning, the agent said sharply. Your personal recordings included. Recordings? My heartbeat spiked. Mara lifted her phone with a trembling hand. I recorded everything you just said, she whispered, but the agent shook his head. No, Mississippi. He pointed toward the window. On a massive LED screen outside, on the building across the street, Victor's confession was playing. Broadcast live. My jaw dropped. Mara's young brother Elias had done it. I had given him instructions before we fled San Aurelio. If we don't contact you in 48 hours, release everything. And he did. Victor lunged toward me, pure rage twisting his features. You betrayed your own blood. No, I said quietly. You betrayed me first. Agents tackled him before he could reach me. Papers scattered. The glass desk shook. Victor was handcuffed, dragged toward the door. He didn't fight. He only stared at me with a hatred so deep it felt biblical. As long as I live, he snarled, you'll never escape me. I stepped closer, meeting his gaze with something stronger than fear. You don't get to define me anymore. Victor Hale, my father, was escorted out of the tower as cameras flashed and reporters screamed his name. The empire he built on lies collapsed in one afternoon. When the office finally emptied, silence settled like dust. My knees gave out. Mara caught me before I fell. You did it, she whispered. We did it, I corrected. The skyline outside felt different now. Not a cage, but a horizon. For the first time since waking by the river, I felt the weight of my past lift, even as the uncertainty of my future loomed. Mara rested her forehead against mine. What now? She asked. I looked out at the city, at the world my father tried to rule through fear. Then I looked at her, the woman who fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. Now, I whispered, we go home. San Aurelio? She asked softly. I nodded. That's the first place I ever felt safe. Mara squeezed my hand. Well, she murmured with a tiny smile. Then let's go home. The flight back to New Mexico felt unreal. Not because I was returning as a free man, but because for the first time in my life I felt like my life was actually mine. No empire waiting. No boardrooms. No shadows of men who smiled with knives behind their teeth. Just San Aurelio, a quiet place where strangers saved me before they even knew my name. When Mara and I stepped off the bus, the village looked exactly as it had the day I left. Dusty, sun-worn, peaceful. But everything inside me had changed. Rosa was sitting outside her home, sorting beans into a woven basket. The moment she looked up and saw us, her hands froze. Then she began to cry. She ran to me faster than I thought her small body could move, throwing her arms around me. Her cheek pressed against my chest as if checking I was real. Lucas, she whispered. My boy, you came back. A lump formed in my throat. I had to. This is where I lived, when my life needed saving. Mara stepped closer, brushing a tear from her grandmother's cheek. He kept his promise, she said softly. We both did. Elias burst out of the house seconds later, waving his phone excitedly. Did you see the news? He's in jail. Your dad is gone, man. I almost laughed. Not because any of it was funny, but because joy felt strange and new in my chest, like a room that had been locked for years suddenly letting in sunlight. Thank you, I told him. You saved me more than you know. He puffed up with pride and pretended he wasn't about to cry. Over the next week, agents and lawyers sent documents, statements, and recordings to my temporary New Mexico address. Hale International collapsed from the inside out. Truth has a way of doing that. By the end of the week, I had a choice: take control of the company, or let it die with the man who corrupted it. I opted for neither. Instead, I took the money legally owed to me, every dollar Victor Hale couldn't bury, and I redirected it towards something he never valued: people, schools, clinics, community programs, beginning with the one place that gave me life after he tried to take it. San Aurelio. Construction began within days. A new medical center, repairs to the broken irrigation lines, a bigger school so families didn't have to send their children miles away. I watched the village transform, not into something fancy, but into something cared for. People stopped looking at me like a stranger. Slowly, they looked at me as one of their own. One evening, after a long day helping rebuild the school roof, Mara and I walked up a hill overlooking the town. The sunset painted the sky in gold and crimson, the kind of beauty you can't buy no matter how rich you are. She stood beside me, arms crossed, wind brushing her hair. "You know," she said, "when we found you, I thought you were going to ruin our lives." I laughed softly. "Honestly, I thought the same." She smiled, a small, real one. "But you didn't," she continued. "You changed everything. And not because of your money. Don't get cocky." She elbowed me lightly. "But because you chose us. You chose this." My chest tightened, not with pain this time, but something softer, something right. "I didn't just choose this place, Mara," I said quietly. "I chose you." She didn't pull away. Her hand found mine, fingers intertwining like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You know," she whispered, "you're a different person now. I had to lose everything to figure out who I really was." She rested her head on my shoulder. "And who is that?" I looked at the village below, the place that healed me, the people who became my family, the girl who risked her life to save mine. A man who finally knows where he belongs. The sun dipped below the horizon, leaving us in the warm afterglow. And for the first time in my life, I felt true peace. Not bought, not inherited, not performed. Just lived. I was born into wealth, but I was saved by love. If stories of betrayal and hidden truths keep you thinking long after they end, click the story showing on your screen now.